afternoon, everyone. Welcome to AVX Live. I'm Joe Gilderson, President of Corporate Audio Visual Services. And today I am joined again by our co-host, Ryan Finch.
Hello, welcome.
Mr. Finch, it's been a while.
It has.
Well, welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you. It's because, it's been a busy few months, and not all of us can just sit around every Wednesday at 1 o'clock and just blah, 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 blah. We had real work to do, Joe.
All right. Well, did you at least miss us a little bit?
I feel like the answer is I'm supposed to say yes. So, yes, of course.
All right. Well, you don't have to say yes.
You look like you've had it held down. I
just
feel like
remember, fans. Okay, just remember that. That's all I'm going to say.
Nice.
All right. Well, listen, Ryan, a little reminder, since I know you haven't been here in a while. We kind of started the show as a way to bring new ideas on how to use AV and production and IT and technology to everyone's day-to-day life. Of course, coming out of the pandemic, all this technology is very new for a lot of people. Now, over the last month, we spent a lot of time discussing the opening up of our economy and of the event community. Today, I was hoping we could finish up some of those discussions on this topic for the time being, But I think we might also have an announcement to make too. But
we do indeed.
Maybe before we get there, why don't you handle the business side of things, okay?
Oh, the business side of things. Well,
you haven't been here in a while.
That's true. I do still remember this part, though, because it's your favorite part. Smash the subscribe button. Like, comment, share. If you have questions, submit them by typing into the whatever platform you're looking on, whether it's Facebook, LinkedIn, or YouTube. We will do our best to answer them right on the air, so to speak. But again, super helpful. If you can show us some support, it does help us, keep this going. And of course, if there's anything you'd like to learn more about, we'd love to hear from you. So please go ahead and do so.
Wow, that was well done.
Thank you.
A little rusty. But that's okay. It was still pretty good. All right, listen, let's start. Since you've been tied up in the virtual side of things for the last couple of Wednesdays here.
Yes.
Why don't we start on the virtual side and we'll transition into the in-person.
Fair.
What have you been seeing on the virtual event side?
Well, that's a good question. I guess maybe the better question is, what have we not been seeing on the virtual event side? Because oddly enough, it's really started to disappear for now. And while it did come as somewhat as a surprise to us internally, is the appetite and the requests seemed to just kind of dry up basically overnight, is what it felt like. It's not really hard to understand why, right? In-person is coming back, hybrid too, but just the fact that we're able to show up to the same place in large groups, and following a few guidelines as these restrictions open up, that's what people are jumping to. And you think of all these people that we've been interfacing with over the last 15 months or so. They've all been aching to get back in person because it's what they know. It's what they're familiar with. It's what they know they can do a good job with. So, it's no wonder to me, I guess, once you kind of look at things, why that's the case. But just for it to be kind of like a light switch. We saw 15 months ago, we saw a light switch of everything disappearing. But it's
that was doomsday back then.
That's right. That's right. But Joe, you've been on site a lot more than I have. Are things different on the in-person side?
Well, I don't know if I'm ready to get there yet. To be honest, things are a little different.
Right.
But more importantly, look, from 15 months ago when we started doing the virtual, what's different about them right now? Because we still have virtual events.
Well, that's true. Now, I like to follow the trajectory of it because they were very distinct. We'll call them chapters of the call it pandemic virtual event. And back in March, we were taking a lot of calls, a lot of inquiries. April, May, once things started to get into gear, and then June when we were full steam. With our first wave of virtual events, the question seemed to revolve around what can we do? There was a lot of uncertainty, a lot of, a high level of unfamiliarity, and there still is right now, but but man, people were just starting out at that point. And we had to really show them, like, here's what you can do. And then they kind of, hit the ground running with that. And then come fall, it kind of graduated to, okay, what else you got? We had to kind of revamp some things. So there were new design schemes. Ooh, camera 2, very nice. There were new design
with the darker
schemes.
look for camera.
It's cool. It's very edgy and moody. I like it.
Kind of like, well, forget it.
All right, fine. Stay focused here. Design schemes we updated, increased capacities, right? Both on the attendance side, how many people are watching, and also on the number of presenters. The complexity of the programs developed further. And then we saw engagement tools become more of a factor. It wasn't good enough for us to just show you something. We want you to be involved in it. And so that's when, things like polling, different types of integrations, Q&A becomes bigger. So that was kind of, we'll call it phase 2. And then the latest being with this past spring season that is now, starting to come to a close here was, well, how else can we apply this technology? Like, what else can we do with it? And that's where we started to see some groups rethink the event formats, right? There's new runs of show, so to speak. We had different entertainers and some mentalists and some, different types of formats where, maybe our presenters are on stage for part of it and then they come down and they're mingling with the virtual audience afterwards. And, there's some choreography going on and some ancillary things happening before and after the event that create more of a, more of an encompassing experience. So things have really changed, and it really did kind of follow the seasonality of it.
No, I think it makes sense, because nobody knew what they could do at first.
Right.
And then all of the software was adapting and changing as we were going. There's still new updates every week for all of them.
Right.
Doesn't matter what platform it is, but people are able to do more things. It's funny though, because now I get notices from 20 different software companies every week about how they have a new platform. I'm like,
yeah,
dude, I think you missed it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But you're out.
It's funny you say that too, because it does take a long time to develop, platforms like this with the infrastructure and the level of coding and programming and all that is so far above my head that I can't accurately speak to it, but I know it takes time. Our friend Nick, who you had on the show last week, he's in that world and he knows firsthand like that this stuff takes time to build. And so to say you missed the boat, yeah, I think that's accurate. But and then there's things developing. Oh, there we go. I see a note from my friend Carl. Carl, what's up, man? Good to hear from you. And please be like Carl. Submit a comment. Maybe ask a question. We would be, we'd be happy to cover that. So,
wow, be like Carl. Nice.
Be like Carl. There we go.
See, Carl just became a part of the show.
That's right. Engagement, interaction. That's phase 2.
Oh, phase 2.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think it's just the nature of it. It does take a long time, and that's part of the reason that when we chose, because at some point we had to make a decision.
Yeah.
Right. There's like 12 different things. Everybody's throwing out new platforms. I remember that. I'm pretty sure the guy's name is Blue. He's working for this one company, but he started all those major productions for Tony Robbins, and he was doing a presentation for another group, and I was watching it, and he did a nice job. He was showing hundreds of different software platforms. I thought I knew a lot of them. I knew maybe a quarter of the ones that were on that screen. And since then, I know it's doubled at least. But,
yeah,
it's just the reality was at some point you had to choose a path. And for us, that became Zoom, Hopin on the 2 platforms that existed. And then, of course, our online galas platform, which has been tremendously successful for all the nonprofit fundraisers.
Right.
But it wasn't a fit for every type of event. And that's just the reality. So when we locked into Zoom and Hopin, that kind of made our life easier. Because then we could just become experts at 2.
Right. Which is effective.
50 of them.
And we equate this all the time, honestly, for any tech people watching. We have certain product lines on, the AV side of things. And that's advantageous for us in some ways because, look, we don't need to know every single product line that's out there. We just need to be able to get the job done, And at the end of the day, the results, right? We talk about results a lot and the experience, all those things. It doesn't matter what exactly you're using at that time on the AV side. It's the result that matters. It's do I get what I wanted out of it? And I think to an extent, that's what will happen as well with with the virtual tools. And we'll talk about kind of where things are heading. I think in just a couple of minutes because I also think things are changing pretty significantly right now because we're heading into a less virtual world. And I guess we're calling that hybrid, huh?
I guess so. But, before we leave the virtual world, let's just go to some quick graphics. You know what I mean? Because
like a music track to go in the background, right?
Not for this one. I have another one, but not for this one.
Oh, you do? That's right. I still don't know when that's coming, so I'm a little nervous.
Well, a little surprise is good for us all. I'm trying to make you uncomfortable so you can really grow.
Check.
But see, I think we started doing these photos because a lot of people thought it was just magic.
Yeah.
Like they didn't know that there was actually people doing things. Right. And so that became one of the things. And, but these were just from this month. So, virtual's still going, but it is certainly tapered off.
Right.
Without a question.
Right. It has. But again, in terms of where we go next, and immediately next, hybrid's going to be the name of the game, because as Joe mentioned earlier is how it feels. It feels a little weird sometimes being in person. I know I see that, myself. So a big part of it is going to be making your audience feel safe. And we've already discussed those, details. But personally, I'm kind of interested to see how hybrid itself develops. Because I think initially the first, and correct me if you feel differently, but I think the first thing that we're noticing as far as hybrid goes is that a lot of groups that are now going back to some in-person elements, right? There's budgets that go with the in-person that really wasn't there on the virtual side. And they haven't, at least they don't seem to be prepared to make a full spend in both avenues. It doesn't seem like they're ready to go all in person and then, high production level on the broadcast coming from the location. Some groups are, but you're talking about 2 full budgets, 2 full productions. And we talk about that a lot too, is that, you have to look at these as 2 different shows. So I think that's kind of been my initial takeaway is that I think groups are kind of, we're back to the you can watch too. You remember? I don't know if that had come up on a previous conversation of ours. Have you seen something different?
Well, I've seen a couple of things. I think the developing part, as people they're figuring out, okay, what can we do in person? That's everybody's discussion. But they're saying, oh yes, and we're streaming. And I find myself asking the first question is, okay, where are we streaming to? Mm. And that hasn't had a lot of thought.
Right.
It seems to develop later in the game. Meanwhile, it's taken us months of planning on the virtual side. 2 solid months to do most events. And so I think it's funny that's now all of a sudden get put in the back seat. People put all the emphasis into the tent and the tablecloth and the table. And then again, that's a secondary role. So, and then, it's been a mix. We've had some very successful hybrids, and then we've had some where there's just tons of people watching online.
Right.
And they had X amount of people in the room based on whatever the requirements were at the moment.
Right.
And then we've had others where there's been 3 people watching online because they didn't advertise it to anyone or tell anybody that they were going to do that.
And so then it makes sense that they don't want to spend a whole lot of money on the production of that. They're just trying to, if anyone doesn't feel comfortable, you're free to watch too.
Well, and I think the other part of that is that there's a recording.
Yes.
And of course, the fact that you're inclusive of everyone, which became a very big thing.
That's true.
Really this year, not even the tail end of last year on the virtual side.
Right.
Is how can we make sure that everyone can participate? How can we get closed captioning in? Do we need to do any sort of sign language? is there going to be translation? That all didn't start until this year.
It's true.
Nobody knew they could do that before this year.
Right.
I think that was part of it.
Right. Well,
But
and a lot
now
of these
that
platforms,
exists.
right. Yeah, I was going to say a lot of these platforms have also, developed accessibility features that we were then able to take advantage of that wasn't even an option before. So to your point, that being, another, call it how the virtuals changed in the last 2 months, or should I say the last season or so. That
I think
was a
that
big
made
part
it
of
on time, right for graduation.
Yes.
I mean, it was really a tremendous graduation season. Yeah. I know on our side, but
I mean, even you're used to seeing it like when we see, the governor or the president making announcements, you see the sign language, like a little video off to the side. That's a level of production that now feels familiar, but it was exclusive to high-end like TV broadcast not too long ago. And now, we have the possibility of doing things like this. I just think, again, to my earlier point, it's going to take time for them to allocate the right resources to make full use of that possibility when there is the in-person side of things.
Well, I think you're right, and of course I have some visuals.
You had some photos of this. That's right.
I got some visuals, Nice. This was our first hybrid. And, that was like really interesting in the sense that was the beginning of May.
Right.
And when I say first hybrid, I mean the first new hybrid.
New hybrid.
But here's one we did last week. Not all that impressive looking. However,
complex.
If you notice, the largest thing in the room is the technical area.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point right there.
Well, that's a good point right there. Because we're running 2 events.
Yeah. I mean, look. Just I'm gonna. That didn't really do much. I'm like,
that is not that much.
Let me zoom in a little bit. Nope. All right, whatever. Yeah. No, that actually has become a recurring question to anyone out there watching who may be planning a hybrid event. Right. You need to factor in that we need space because there's a lot of stuff that needs to get set up in order to do this properly. And that, I remember back in traditional AV, no streaming, nothing, pre-pandemic, we're fighting for every inch of that tech table. And they're like, do you really need this? Because you're taking away seats that I could have sold. You're taking away space that could have been for people who are watching. And we're like, well, you're not going to have a show otherwise. Yes, we need the space, and it's always that tough kind of, battle. But yeah, that scales tremendously when we're talking about virtual. You got 2 productions in many cases.
Well, so you talk about space. Here's an example. It's hard to see.
That's just.
But we actually brought our own tent to block out and create some more space. So we're like a tent outside of a tent because honestly, we couldn't see any of the monitors in the sun.
Right. Think outside the tent,
So we did. It was BYOT.
Oh wait, hold on. You keep going because that's got to get on.
Is that going on? Well, anyways, actually, the one thing that's interesting about this picture is you see there's actually 2 seats there because there are BYOT hashtag BYOT.
Oh wait, even better.
There are 2 different video engineers. They're essentially running 2 separate shows. So one person is running the room. You see a TV monitor in the room. That's for the 150 to 200 people there. The other person was running the stream.
Right. And
then he's actually adding in graphics and different videos. And, they're literally doing 2 separate shows.
Yeah.
So it becomes a little bit of a space thing. Without a question. And, it's not even just that portion, but it's also cameras. So in this, now we got to add cameras and that creates a little bit of space too. And, you can get the sense that there's a lot more involved because again, you are doing 2 shows at once and you have different audiences that are watching the whole time.
And also to your point earlier, about the recordings, one thing that has become much more common now is asking for a little production level on the recording itself. Hey, trim this out, replace the slides here, X, Y, and Z. And Joe, you've mentioned this before. depending on our level of setup in the room, we can stream a finished video product that you don't then need to edit later. And I think that's something that's worth highlighting because, again, there's a cost associated with editing footage and producing video content. Mm-hmm. And if we're going to be there and there's already, the camera and we're streaming it and there's already a recording, it doesn't take a whole lot at that point to improve it enough that it can stand alone, that it doesn't need to be tweaked later. Consider like what happens during transition moments. Like, all right, people are eating dinner. Maybe we roll a slideshow. Maybe there's something in there just so that, it's not awkward blank space. It's worth thinking of it as what could this finished product look like? And I think that's something, especially for this next season, the fall season and the hybrid, inquiries that come in. I think that's got to be part of the conversation for sure.
Yeah, no, I think it has to be, it's funny because one of the units we used there for that particular event, it's a fairly new machine for us, and we got it just for hybrid events, to be honest.
New toys.
It is a new toy, and it does exactly what it's supposed to do, so that's successful.
Right.
But at that point, the day before, we were asked, hey, can you add in names for everybody? Well, we can. Now,
and by names, you're talking about...
I'm talking about
something like
lower
this down
thirds,
here.
yeah.
I was
little
about
Ryan
to
Finches.
In my head, I'm like, I'll just reach over and point to yours, and no, that doesn't work.
Did that not work?
Well, no, I mean, because I am not in the same place as you.
I know you're not, right. Very good. Yes. I know it's been a while since you've been on the show.
It's still fun. I know. Yeah, go ahead.
This is good. But that's also a discussion I had yesterday about an event we're going to be doing down at Pier 60 in October. And we'll also be streaming that to a different platform than we usually do. But, that's not really the important part. The important part is that we can send it. It's pretty much finished. Yeah. That's the reality. Now, the program has to be tweaked in order so that you don't have that 30 minutes of dinner in the middle.
Right.
But as far as what they're seeing, we're sending the camera shot. We're dropping a name on there. We're sliding in the video. We're bringing in the slides. There's 2 events.
Absolutely.
One's got the 500 people. The other one, I don't know how many they're going to have.
And
but actually, interesting point to that.
Yeah.
Because this has come up now twice recently. So some of these platforms, they're not built like a Hop-In. They're not built like an online galas. They're built to take only a public YouTube URL or a Vimeo URL.
Right.
That is not the same.
Yeah.
It's it's just a link to a link. I mean, is all it is, really.
It is. It is, and
so
it can work well, but it's limiting in some ways. But
I just don't think they tell anybody that. They say, "Oh yeah, you can stream direct to us, no problem."
I mean, and that is literally true. I mean, it's literally true. It's just the way it handles that. I guess the moral of the story is if, you have a streaming partner and an AV partner involved, get them involved in the platform early. Like if you already have this lined up, that's one of those things that needs to be figured out ahead of time. We shouldn't wait and figure out that our plan A was never going to work to begin with leading up to the event. That's just not that's just not a good plan, Well,
so, it sets everybody behind.
There you go.
Because usually everybody needs a link.
Right.
And they're saying, okay, but we got to publicize this. What can we put on there? And that takes more than an hour.
Right.
To kind of get it built and done. So it's just one of those things. If we know about it, it's easier. And that applies to anybody who's streaming. So,
yeah.
But no, so, the other part is we're certainly seeing a lot more on the in-person back to, the way we were, the note that I saw come on screen a few minutes ago. We're definitely seeing a lot more of that. Oh, there we go. Mm-hmm. One Jim Marlowe. Ryan, what are you hearing from people as they're starting to plan their in-person?
Good question. One of them is they don't know attendance, how much to plan for, because they may know they have 800 people, but they know that they can't expect all 800 to be there. And I think that's kind of the sliding scale. Eventually, push comes to shove, like the venues are going to need to know, and I think that honestly makes a huge difference in terms of timing. And Joe, you might know a little better than I do, but I'd imagine the venue would need to know how many people to plan for even before we would, just because of certain changes. All right, we can go bigger on the screen. We can add more speakers on the in-person side of things, to an extent. Those are things that we could be changing, with some level of flexibility leading up to the event. But on the venue side, making sure they have enough, food and beverage and capacities, and that's just something I think would need to get fleshed out ahead of time. So that's what I'm hearing for the most part, is that they just don't know how many people that they're going to get to show up to these in-person side of things. So then they don't know what the value of producing that virtual content is. Like how much do I allocate if it's only going to be 2 people watching, or if it's going to be 400 people watching? Obviously, then there's a different value attached to what you'd put into that. So that's for the most part, I think the biggest challenge. Of course, then there's the restrictions and what's going to change, and the variants, and flu season, and mask wearing, and whether or not that's going to become a thing. Oh, there you go, perfect, look, right on cue.
I'm already feeling safer.
Yes, yeah, but by and large, and this I do feel strongly about. I think there's a lot more guidance right now, a lot more clarity right now than there was even a month ago, 2 months ago.
Well, absolutely. But we also have the benefits of spring, and honestly,
True.
The weather has been okay.
That's true. Yeah, we've been lucky a few times already.
A lot of the events we've seen so far have some element of outdoors.
Right. So what happens
I think
when we then go indoors? Exactly.
Yeah, and I think that's coming. This was in a tent, right?
Right.
This was, you can see it's a patio. Now it's a tented patio, but this was only an in-person event. But you can see how things are spaced out.
Yep.
No question. This is up at Caramore, also a tented outdoor space. You can see that the seats are spaced as pods. They were designed for families in that particular case. We've had discussions in the past month with some different people from venues, and part of the topic has been, well, how are you going to manage that? And we do have a big event that's coming up in September. I mean, most of the events that are coming up, they're saying, okay, everybody, you're on the honor system, or only vaccinated people can come. We just did one down in the city that they actually had the rapid testing on site for the guests, that they could have an answer in 5 or 10 minutes before they came in. However, that all of the staff that was working, so it's not just our staff, it's catering, it's security, valet, anyone that's associated with the event, either had to have proof of vaccination or had to have a negative test results within the last 72 hours. So that becomes a little bit of a thing,
Yeah. More
that
logistics.
You have to consider all around. And,
right.
I've been asking people, all right, are you going to be the vaccination police? Like, how is that going to work when 500 people are coming in? Are you asking to see their pass from New York State? Are you asking to see their card? I think it's a hard spot for everybody who's going to be in that position.
It is. Yeah, it's one more thing. We're talking about hybrid. We got an in-person side. We got potentially a whole nother production for the external virtual audience, and then it's one more thing on top of that. So time and lead times become super important. And we've already talked about staffing to an extent too, being a major hurdle as well.
Well, I'll tell you the one I'm seeing right now, without a question, is the dates.
Yeah. Booking
dates. I can already tell you 3 days in September where we have, 3 events. And the reality is most of everybody I talk to in the industry is still on a very limited capacity. Mm-hmm. They have not gotten their staffing back. It doesn't matter if it's catering, a tent. I was talking to a tent guy. They've been busy. But the reality is they had 75 people before. They have 18 now. So it's just not the same. You can only handle a certain amount of work at the same time. So if people are holding off and waiting on booking dates, they're just not going to get people. The vendors aren't going to be available. I'll tell you that right now. I already anticipate we'll have blackout dates, which we never would have had before.
Right. Absolutely.
But I don't see how it's even avoidable at this point, because you have to book now. That is the nature of fall right now. I don't think that's the case for next spring, but there is a ramp up period that everybody's going to go through, and that does include us.
Yeah. Some groups would be shaking off the rust too. It's haven't done something in a year and a half, or a year and change. There's got to be some understanding there that certain things are going to be getting back to familiarity. People just when you haven't done anything in a long enough time, there's a little part of that ramp up period that you mentioned.
It's kind of like you coming on the show today.
Yeah, right. Like I don't know what to do with my hands. Do I just? Oh.
You need a small drum kit.
It's not time for the announcement yet. It's not time. Put it away.
I'm sorry.
There we go. Although we are getting there.
Hey, Ryan, I actually have I have one more event.
Really?
That we did live in person. If you're interested.
Yeah, well, go ahead.
I can't say what's going to happen next, but
me neither.
Let's just see.
Shine my six string.
Oh my.
I got a little Jimmy Buffett. You imagine he just opened a new hotel in Times Square. There's a Margaritaville hotel. New York's coming back, baby. Jimmy Buffett's in town.
Hey.
See, even Carmita likes that.
That's right. It's progress.
We like progress. Excellent. All right, I won't play Jimmy all day for you. Still. Look, there's people there. There's surfboards. What more do you want?
You know what I'd love? I'd love to see a live stream of that. I'd love to be able to see what's going on that stage at any given moment.
Well.
And as our friend Will Austin says, that tape will live on. And from an audience and engagement standpoint, and actually this plays into a question that we kind of skipped over, which was how do we think live video is going to play into the future of events in general,
It seems that now the song has driven demand. My wife would like a margarita now.
Margarita time.
It's 5:00 somewhere. That's all I can say.
Does that mean I can leave?
No, Vince, you're still on the clock. You're still on the clock.
But look, live video in general. I'm sorry, I missed your prop there. Very nice.
It's okay. It's the only prop I got.
We'll get to that in a second. Video in particular, right? We've seen even internally as a company that video marketing is becoming much more important. Whether it's the custom video to explain how to use something, and that we put together for a client, or that a vendor of ours will put together to explain something for us. Whether it's this podcast you're watching right now,
boom,
pause for effect, and scene, or it could be what have you, a webinar series, panel series. In any case, this live video I think is going to become very much a part of the overarching digital marketing strategies, especially on the corporate side. And so you may see these kinds of needs start to crop up from not exactly the event planning department. And I've already started to see, groups have actually gone and kind of created their own systems for streaming and broadcasting. And, they're kind of figuring it out as they go. And, they hire people to come and help them produce it. And, some things they can handle themselves and some things they need a little more help on. So I'm interested to see where it goes. I think those marketing departments are going to have to break open the piggy bank a little bit to start producing their own content. And honestly, the in-person events, the hybrid events, are going to be a part of that. So I think I'm kind of interested to see where that goes. I think you're going to see a lot of video and live video in particular coming from all types of brands, all types of industries, and that's just something that I think is going to continue to snowball and remain for a long time. And so again, we talk about virtual kind of disappearing for right now, maybe so, but I still think it's just going to take some time for groups to look at their events, look at their event calendars, decide what's more effective to be virtual now that we have the option. And then, like I said, on the marketing side, a series or potentially recurring set of all virtual events just to stay present. Staying present. Kind of relevant, huh?
Yeah, that's a pretty big thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I know it was for us in the last 16, 17 months. So, and just like Jim had just chimed in, repurposing. I mean, the fact that there is so much noise or competition out in the marketing world, having content all the time seems to be a very hot thing. And I mean, we talked to a lot of different people, Liz Bracken Thompson. We talked to my friend, the Shark, Andrew Castellano. I mean, that's what they're talking about. Mike Dardano. They were all talking about content and how to use it to stay in front of people and and build your brand.
It's part of that digital presence. It's a touch point. We talk about touch points with clients all the time. It's a touch point. So,
well, good stuff.
How much effort do you put into it, Joe? I think we're done. I think we need to talk about our big announcement. I think it's time.
Do you think it's time?
I think it's time. It is now 1:37. Let it be known that at 1:38 we're going to make this big announcement. But first, drum roll.
I think it's broken.
You blew it. You practiced it and everything.
I think I used the last of the batteries though. It doesn't work anymore.
Oh man.
We're back.
Oh, there it is. It's doing its own thing now. Okay. All right. God, that was a drum roll.
You can't give a drummer like an opportunity like that, bitch.
My God, that was terrible.
It was pretty bad. Hey, look, it's live. What are you going to do?
We're live. We are live right now. So Joe, do you want to tell our audience what this is here?
September 1st and 2nd this year, we will be hosting our first ever hybrid Pirate University.
Oh my God, hybrid.
Oh yeah, we are so big time. We're going hybrid. And I got to tell you, our friends at AVX Live might be there. That's all I know.
Making a special appearance, huh?
There could be a special appearance. So the question is, what's Pirate University? Well, That's a good question. Pirate University is actually training that we've been doing for almost 10 years at this point. And it's something internal that we created because we were looking for ways to try to educate people, especially in the beginning. It was about entry-level stagehands. Let's get them some basic skills because that didn't exist at the time.
Right.
It still really doesn't exist, to be honest. But let's get them some basic skills. And then every year it has moved up a little bit. And then, of course, it became much more advanced training in certain things, whether it was sound, to different microphones, to lighting techniques. I mean, we actually had, a Tony Award-winning lighting designer in to
the art of lighting. I remember that.
Yeah. I mean, he was the real deal, And we've had streaming. I mean, we had streaming probably, 5 years ago at least.
Right.
Our friends from Sonic Foundry came in, did a full class.
Flew out from the Midwest just to help educate the future of streamers, right?
Well, if you use that as one of those points to look ahead, it's probably why we're so successful in the virtual side. Thank you, Pirate University.
That's a good point.
So
just patting himself on the back shamelessly right now, by the way.
So do we need more drums?
No, we're done with the drums.
All right, done with drums. All right. And so every year it's developed a little bit. There's been customer service. We have leadership and project management. I mean, we try to go into the idea of a lot of people in the industry have always said, because it's such a heavy freelance and part-time, whatever you want to call the roles,
Right.
And a shared community of individuals, a lot of people say, well, I'm not going to spend the money to train somebody and they're going to take it someplace else. The problem with that thinking is don't you want people to do the best they can when they're working with you?
Right.
And don't you want to have the best trained workforce possible doing your events?
Right.
And it has a very positive effect on everyone. And it always has, and honestly, half of our team has come up through this Pirate University rankings, and others have gone on to some pretty cool gigs, whether it's at Facebook or Pfizer or, all these different places where they know more than everybody else there. And they have those customer service skills because they learned it.
Right. Which is often neglected, especially on the, in the technical world, as those soft skills. And especially in the virtual side of things, we see this time and time again. It's like that person that you're working with on the tech side, it becomes very much the experience, is how well you deal with with your client and your client's clients who may be speaking on these virtual events. It's critically important. So I think the idea here is that we're going bigger this time around. We're reaching a wider audience, casting a wider net. Because the hybrid and streaming environments are very much a national and really global type of community, because it doesn't really matter where you are. I can hop on a Zoom call with South Africa for their business updates and town halls. So why can't I bring somebody who doesn't necessarily live in the tri-state and bring them in and make them successful on a virtual side? And as some of our friends will say, bigger is always better. And that is 100% correct. Thank you, Marissa. But yeah,
thank you, MM. M squared.
M squared.
M and M. I don't know. I don't know what we're going there. But yeah, the idea is that we're going to have some different levels and different tiers to it, and we're building all that out now. We're going to have an in-person audience that'll be an invite crowd, and we're going to be streaming to hop in. And we're going to have some different sections there. And I expect that we'll have a lot of our technical friends and exhibitors. And everybody's excited to get back together. People are enjoying being in person again and feeling the energy of an in-person event, because that's the thing that is not replicable on the virtual side. But so we're actually going through our own things, right? In the planning side, we're trying to figure how much time should it be on the virtual that'll be different than what's going on in the in-person? And then what sections or what parts of the event are going to be only in person? And what's the virtual experience going to be? So we're going through all that right now. But September 1st and 2nd.
Mark your calendars.
Mark it down.
Oh, geez. The Massachusetts came out there. There was an R that was supposed to be in there somewhere, and it just...
Mark. Let's mark that thing down. Come on. We know what it is.
So that was it. That was the big announcement.
That was a big announcement.
There's a lot more to come.
Didn't work so well. I mean,
a little underwhelming there, but more to come. More to come.
Can't win them all.
No.
All right. Well, let's wrap this thing up, Finch. It's time.
Deal. Well, we are going to be doing this again. And if you're wondering when, next Wednesday at 1 o'clock. Like it says, right over my head, every Wednesday at 1 p.m. And while you're at it, if you're on one of those channels or you're watching this video in a pre-recorded manner, which we know most people end up doing because we've been keeping an eye on things, tip, like, comment, share, subscribe, smash the subscribe button if you please. And that would be very much appreciated. So, yeah, there you go. That's it.
All right. Well, we're out of here. Everybody enjoy the rest of the day. We got some sun. Let's do it.
All right. Take care, everyone.